Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to Raising Excellence, the most important 90 minutes of your day. Hello, I'm Michael, the MC and Opportunity Ambassador for today's show. And today's show's title is Tools for a Harmonious Thanksgiving Holiday.
It's almost
With
a
me
title.
today, with me today are my fabulous co-host. We've got a full crew today for the first time in a while. With me is Agnieszka, our psychosomatic illuminator,
Hi, everybody.
Willow, our trauma consultant,
Hi, everyone.
and Dennis, our freedom facilitator.
Greetings and blessed love, everybody.
So today's topic, kind of going along lines with our gratitude, our attitude of gratitude from Monday's show. We're going to talk more about tools for a harmonious holiday. Isn't that something?
Big
So,
time.
does anybody have any suggestions or thoughts before we kick into building some
Oh,
tools?
there are some
Certainly.
tools that people already use,
Okay.
like this one, right?
Okay.
People use
I don't know if
this
that's
every Thanksgiving.
I don't
Is
know
that
if
a
that's a
tool?
tool.
Fountain water.
Explain. It's a pure fountain water from the Caribbean.
Well, I have a question right to start with, which is because I'm not really too familiar with Thanksgiving, with that holiday itself, because it was not something I grew up with. So would you guys mind sharing a little bit of what kind of holiday that is, what is it all about, and maybe how did you celebrate it, what do you associate with it?
Well, I'll start off. From my understanding, Thanksgiving started off as an idea that I think Abraham Lincoln, as the president at the time, was suggesting that there be some type of recognition of uh, Thanksgiving, and I'm not exactly sure where the story came from. If anybody wants to throw in on that or do a little bit of
Wasn't
research.
it? We were always taught that it was to mark the period of time when the what I don't know what they were called, the Native Americans and the
The
settlers.
Puritans.
Yeah, Puritans. They joined together, and the indigenous cultures taught them how to grow plants using different methods and like traded fish. They ended up trading together, and so it was a celebration of both of their efforts, kind of like joining. But I don't remember what the Puritans actually brought to the table at that point. I don't remember what they traded. All I remember was basically they got their asses saved by the indigenous cultures.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine it was some beads and maybe a few bottles of whiskey. No,
Probably.
no, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it kind of got ingrained into the traditional holiday, or at least the state-sponsored holiday, sometime in the 20th century. I'm not exactly sure when that came about. I think it was more of a kind of regional holiday prior to that, and it's obviously grown with American football having like games on Thanksgiving and all those kind of things. I can certainly remember as a child even watching football on Thanksgiving and that being
I
a part
totally
of.
forgot about that tradition because I
Yeah.
don't watch football, and usually, cause being so far away from my family, we don't really do a lot of Thanksgiving. Although we have a tradition this year that we're gonna start doing a open carry walk for Thanksgiving, so that's gonna be fun.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Now there actually is it Howard Zinn that wrote the kind of the un unauthorized version of American history. That's the one that I think gets started on a different version of history that kind of outlines how Christopher Columbus was not such a good guy and may have led to the deaths of 2 or 3 million natives in Espanola as well as some other places. And I think probably since the I don't know, is it the 80s or the 90s that really it got started with a kind of a difference of opinion on what Thanksgiving represents. And so for some people, Thanksgiving is a holiday of the oppressors.
And what
I'd say
exactly
it's
do you do?
definitely.
Like, how do you celebrate it? What are the kind of traditions or rituals around the holiday?
Hang on, let me answer that. So I'm a foreigner, but I've witnessed enough of it. So you get together. There probably usually a lot of food, a couple fights between the family members. Somebody ends up crying in the corner, and then a lot of people get drunk.
You just described every holiday in the United States.
Which is good.
It's not very specific.
And also
the
Christmas in
food-
Europe.
The food associated with Thanksgiving is usually a turkey, some sort of stuffing or dressing. In the South, it's a dressing, usually a cornbread dressing. The further north you go, the more stuffing you get, which is usually just like a bread-based side dish that used to go in or around the turkey. Cranberry
Mashed
sauce,
potatoes,
mashed
cranberries,
potatoes, and lots of gravy.
sweet
Do the gravy
potatoes.
boats. Sweet potatoes with marshmallows on top, green bean casserole.
Marshmallows.
Pumpkin
Yeah,
pie.
sweet potatoes with marshmallows on the top.
Never
and
heard of
pumpkin
it.
pie.
Most of the
I just
things you
named
guys
off my
mentioned,
favorites. So
most of the things you guys mentioned have had in Canadian Thanksgivings, but this marshmallows, no.
at least that's how it's the sweet potatoes with they whip up marshmallows and put it on top of the sweet potatoes. That's how I've always had it.
It must be a Southern thing.
Could be.
Dennis, what are you
Yeah.
thinking? I can see you thinking.
Well, just trying to imagine, besides the food, what are the kind of rituals or the kind of things you would do on the day that brings people together, and if it's if there's so like I get it's not a religious holiday, but are there some people that are really into it, and then but while most people just do it because it has always been done and it's just some food and family together.
I knew some people who volunteered at the food bank.
So one of the big traditions is it's called Thanksgiving because it's a day of giving thanks, and that's what the original story that we were told about how the Puritans and the indigenous cultures were giving thanks to each other and coming together and sharing a meal in peace together as a show of thanks. So before or after dinner, sometimes some families will go around the table and give thanks to say what they're thankful for this year or this day. Doesn't even matter really what it is, big or small. Eric says he suspects a lie, but I don't know which part he's talking about. So can you be a little more specific?
Yeah, well, it is a family gathering. It is kind of the first holiday of the Christmas season. So a lot of people, certainly the next day, Black Friday, is the day that everybody goes out and starts shopping. Everybody starts putting up their Christmas tree, Christmas lights, and all that stuff. Is usually after Thanksgiving, or at least it used to be. Now it's probably a little bit earlier than that, but in any case, it is kind of the holiday that kind of kicks in the United States into this holiday season that goes on until after New Year's.
Wouldn't it be nice if you guys had the whole month off? Month and a half.
It would be.
Everybody could just party and attend Christmas markets, which are all closed, but
Well, it does seem pertinent that especially in our times, every excuse to come to gratitude and to give thanks for what we have is certainly welcome, and it's certainly a good reminder if you have a holiday that centers around that. So what could be then some of the hands-on tools, or doesn't have to be hands-on, but when I look at it again from a holistic view, okay, what would be some simple down-to-earth things that that I can do, that I can I don't know, some ritual, some ceremony that I might even do with my family around the table, or the before or after, like the one you shared earlier. And what could be...
Hang on, you're changing the question. Now it's a completely different question. I have the answer for the first question. Ask the second question later.
Yeah, I have an answer for the first question too.
Yeah,
That's a little sarcastic.
you're messing it up. So go ahead. I like the sarcastic one first. Let's hear from Willow.
So one of the rituals, and it's a very common meme actually, is the younger generation will go for a very long walk and smoke a J before they eat, so that they're very calm. They can handle all the BS. They can handle all the, like, the really young ones and the really old ones who just like they're
In your
kind of
face.
egotistical, in your face. And that's usually, that was always my go-to rule is, me and my sisters, God, I hope my mom's, actually I don't care if my mom's watching, but every Thanksgiving, me and my older sister would just be like, hey, do you want to go for a walk? Let's go hang out outside. And we'd go walk somewhere and smoke a bowl, just so we could, just be calm and centered and really just enjoy our time with our family without getting frustrated about the little quirks, because Thanksgiving was a big deal for my family. We always got together on Thanksgiving, and it's been kind of strange the last couple of years not having Thanksgiving with family.
So there we have it. There we have one tool already in our toolbox. How to bring out the
Cannabis.
gratitude.
CBD drops would work just as well, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but it does, it's not the same.
Back then, maybe you didn't have them. I'm just saying people
I would think
smoke.
some edibles could go a long way in
Yeah, but you got to be
doing some
careful
good.
about bringing food to Thanksgiving, because that's how you get your grandparents high on accident.
That's
You're
how
like,
two
oh,
babes end up on the
sorry.
floor thinking they're dying. Anyway. No, I was thinking about something different, something more internal, because every time that we get upset about somebody else's behavior, it's because somehow they're pushing us out of balance, right? And why is it that somebody else is pushing us out of balance? It's because we're shrinking in ourselves, right? So when we take our space, take the space that belongs to us, this, our actual space, and take charge of that space. No one can actually tell us what to do or how to do it, right? Because we can either agree or we can disagree. We don't have to acquiesce, right? We can just stand, we can take our space and really stand in that space. And that doesn't require an argument or even backtalk. It could just be like, thank you, Uncle Sam. That's really wonderful.
Thank you for your input. By the way, Eric answered my question. He said, well, now he's added another comment. So he said that he suspected a lie about the story about the natives and the pilgrims, which I'm not going to disagree with you. There's probably a lot of lies in those stories. Just like with a lot of traditions, we don't go on based on what it actually was about. It's kind of like the new traditions. What does it mean to you that a lot of people actually celebrate for?
And symbol, it's a symbol, right?
I'll throw out a couple things. My advocacy for journaling never ends. So I would suggest taking a little time the day prior or the evening prior to the holiday, and really kind of focusing on like what are some of the positives and what are some of the things that you're grateful for when it comes to each of the people that you expect to see on the at the event. And then beyond that, I think there is also the taking on the responsibility of like delivering positive messages to people. I think each relationship has that opportunity to like if you're understanding the maintenance of that communication and the level of communication, starting off with something positive can go a long way to solving a great deal of some of the animosity or like misunderstandings that could have taken place over the past year or few years. And so really taking responsibility for that communication or that line of communication could be simply just starting the conversation with some positive words, messages, thoughts about your gratitude towards the other people in your life, in your family.
Yeah, that sounds like a good, door opener, or how to like kind of set the space. And I'd probably even look into preparing the space ahead of time, which can be, a really powerful thing. So, you know, by
Rolling a joint, putting it in your pocket. You mean like that?
by your own by your own attitude, by the energy, by the vibe, you know, you put
Oh.
and you hold yourself in, but then also how you prepare the physical space, you know, like on a down to earth thing, like how do you, you know, I don't know what pictures you have around, like how do you set it up, you know, how much light is there, I don't know what kind of items you might, you know, put out or put away
I have a
in order
tip,
to remind people of, you know, good times of, you know, I don't know, have a few photo
but it may
albums
not
out
be
there,
your
whatever it
house.
is.
You may be going to somebody else's house, right, for Thanksgiving. So you may not have that control. But you know what? Wear comfortable clothing, because it's so much easier to get annoyed with other people when you're wearing uncomfortable clothing.
Wanted to add what Mike was saying
And
about
then
like
have no
journaling the night before.
Mhm.
I think it's important to also remember that you're a human being. You might get triggered, and that's normal, and that's okay. That's not the big deal, really. The big deal is how you handle it. So if you know that Uncle, you know,
Joe.
whatever.
We had
Yeah.
Uncle Joe earlier, so might as well stick with that.
Okay. Well,
Why
that's
do-
weird now because we actually just kicked our roommate out and his name was Joe. So it's kind of
Oh.
weird. I'm just like, now I feel bad. I'm like, I'm not talking shit or anything. But
Okay,
yeah,
Uncle
okay, we'll go with
Steve. Uncle Steve. Let's go with Steve.
Uncle Steve.
Steve
Okay.
is common now.
Like if you know that Uncle Steve's gonna really, you know, rile you up, is not gonna let you back out of a conversation, isn't going to respect your boundaries, you can prepare for that. You can journal about that and be like, you know, I really fear that tomorrow I'm gonna get worked up. I have a feeling that my boundaries are going to be tested and I'm not going to know how to reinforce them. I'm not going to know how to put them back up. That's going to make me feel uncomfortable, or I'm going to feel like maybe I will resent that person for this fear. That's also important too. Just that way you're acknowledging it before you go into it. So when it actually does happen, if it actually does happen, you have thought about it just a little bit, and it may or may not help, but at least you're a little more prepared. I don't see how that could hurt.
Yeah. What else can we do? Dennis, I wanted to hear something from you that's like, remember who is the one who's getting upset? So yeah, when you're getting upset, it may be the part of you that's earthly or the part of you that's divine. Pay attention. That kind of thing.
I will fulfill your request with the words of Khalil Gibran, who says, Wake at dawn with a winged heart and give thanks for another day of loving."
All right. Winged heart. Thank you, Khalil Gibran. Thank you, Dennis. No, but seriously, who is the one getting upset? Is it going to matter in 10 years? Or, you know, in 2030, are you going to turn to your best friend Maggie and say, you know, remember Thanksgiving 2020 and Uncle Steve? I mean, I can't believe he wanted me to watch the news again. I mean, seriously. And he tried to, and he turned it on during the part. It was so annoying. Like, you're not going to say that. You're probably not going to, okay, 9 out of 10, you're not going to say that. You're going to say, oh yeah, the turkey was good. And then you're not going to remember anything past it.
Well,
Most likely.
can I go there and give thanks for the opportunity of reuniting with Uncle so-and-so and family member so-and-so, and this time being able to accept them just, you know, who they are and how they are and how they behave, and observe
That's
myself
hard.
and be there.
Accepting people for who they are? Really?
I'd say if you could do
What if
that,
they're
you would be the star of
stupid?
Thanksgiving, because you would be the most centered person there, the most zen person there, which I guess is exactly what we're trying to encourage
What if the
people or
shit
help
they
people
will
do.
say makes no sense? You still like accept them for who they are?
Remember, calm is power. Calm is power.
I guess it's probably hard to accept people for who they are if you can't, like, at the same time, you also have to accept your own reaction to them. And to be like, you know what? I accept you as you are, even though you piss me the fuck off. You know?
And I accept myself as I am, even though I get pissed off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is always the opportunity, and you know, in a lot of cases, when it comes to praise, you should really be public with praise. And when it comes to criticism, you should always try and take that, somewhere else, and not really discuss that with anybody other than the person that you have the problem with. And if you do that kind of or if you feel like that might be something that needs to be addressed, take that proactive approach and take that person to the side and say, I know we've had situations in the past that haven't gone well. Let's try, for everybody's benefit, to be kind to each other today. I am going to make my best effort to be kind to you. Would you do the same for me? That kind
What
of
if
thing.
instead of saying all that, which can piss somebody off just by the virtue of it, what if you're just super nice to them? What if you're like, hey, here's a plate with some cake on it. Hey, did you da 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 da? Hey, how's your prize chicken? Just like go out of your way to be nice to the person that normally annoys you.
I think that could get really draining really fast, though, because if that's the only way to call it, that's like a people pleasing thing. It's avoiding the confrontation and the actual problem.
It's Thanksgiving. You should avoid the confrontation. You should have the confrontation on Tuesday next week.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a fine line between like standing your ground when you're being like walked all over.
Bullied.
Yeah.
Versus like.
We talked about this, I think, in the last show in regard to kindness being perceived as weakness. And, when there's like a predator and they see somebody weak, it's almost like, oh, well, I'm going to take that target, and it just encourages more and more rather than less and less. And so trying to be kind when somebody else perceives that as weakness could get you into trouble.
Because Agnieszka, you're also assuming that the family gathering is comprised of all healthy but still human beings. So there's still going to be some conflict. There's still going to be some miscommunication. But there are plenty of families who are very unhealthy, who don't you do have to set your boundaries. And so I think Mike's approach would be more respectable, where it's like, hey, you know what? I know we have our issues. Let's address that problem. Let's try to I understand that we have those issues, and I'm not saying that we should just ignore it at all, but maybe today isn't the day to hash that out. I'd like to just enjoy my time with you. So I'm going to do whatever I can to try and enjoy my time with you. And I hope you do the same. I think that's a much more stand your ground, and you're being very polite and very nice and very tolerant, but you're also not giving in. You're not people pleasing to avoid conflict, because once you get in that habit, it's really hard to stop doing, because they don't see it as you're doing it just for Thanksgiving. They see that as you should do that all the time. So next Tuesday, when you try to stand your ground, it might be hard because you didn't stand your ground during a holiday. I think holidays, people get really confused on whether they should actually set their boundaries or how to do that.
But that's really only if you measure your behavior, or if you try to live up to other people's expectations and their ways of life and what they might think or not think, and then you get caught up in that kind of mind, how you call it, mind clutter. But if you wouldn't even have to say anything, just like the example that you, Mike, were giving. If the vibe, if there's no openness, or if it would be completely weird or out of place, if you say something, or if you suggest, a little, I don't know, a little ceremony or a little game or something, people telling each other what they, give thanks for in each other. If that's, not possible, and if that's out of what's possible, then, just hold the posture within, and be there before and give thanks, and, prepare for everybody, mentally, have it as a mental exercise, and hold that energy while the people are there. And then, is it possible that somebody could want to argue at you or say whatever they want to say, and you can still hold it, say, oh, remember 20 years back, I played with you and it was like this and you said that, and I'm really thankful for that. You don't even have to voice it, but, just putting yourself, turning your dial on that frequency and keeping that frequency, that could be, the most powerful exercise. And that actually might turn around not only your own your own life experience at that moment, but it might turn around the experience of everybody close by without you even uttering one word.
So we have two comments from the
I agree.
audience. Dennis, you got a shout out. Colleen says, Dennis is amazingly zen during family events. I don't know how he does it. Congratulations, because
I thought it's because Dennis' family was just so perfect. There was no conflict.
maybe.
And Colleen's family too, of course.
The other comment is from Kara. Says, hey friends, before going into family events, I check my intention. Is my intention to be right or change minds? Or is my intention to connect? This helps me go in with more patience. I think that's a pretty good technique.
Cool.
It relates a lot back to what Mike and I were saying about like journaling, figuring out why you're there. And also what Dennis was saying, accepting people as they are. And if you're trying to connect with them, you're going to have to realize, oh, crazy Uncle Steve really cares about talking politics and I don't. So I guess we'll just have to like find a compromise, and I can accept that that's what interests him, and I can also accept that that doesn't interest me. We'll find our way through this conversation. Yeah.
Or ask Uncle Steve what he's thankful about. Sorry. Like ask, without, if it's not appropriate to say, hey, I'm thankful for this and that, what you did or who you are right now. Like to ask somebody, is there anything you're really thankful about, in me? Or right now, is there something, what would be the first thing you could be grateful for in this moment? I bet a few interesting things will come out.
I think, and this is certainly something I think the autonomy graduates and community would feel strongly about, but like creating questions that can lead to, a lot of positive feelings, or at least an inclination towards, like positive outcomes, like what are the things that you're grateful for? Like, what is the best thing that's happened to you this year? Those type of questions can probably stir or steer the conversation in ways that people start to see that we have a lot of things in common, and certainly steering towards those kind of things, the things that we have in common that we can share and talk about and enjoy. That's the kind of things that we want to bring about. And certainly if you could create that circumstance where, like they ask everyone, or, like a lot of people have the tradition to ask what people are thankful for. There could be other questions that could be asked throughout the day.
Like
I just said, questions that stir up thoughts of things we have in common, rather than
give us some examples, like specific examples.
Like, remember when you were a kid, what was the funnest thing you did? And then of course, like, grandma comes in and says, like when back in my day, we were ice skating on the pond or something like that. And that brings about a lot of interesting thoughts and, I think positive environment.
These are moments where through our memory or by bringing up memories that we might have forgotten, but that others, still remember, and by reminding us of those moments which we might have forgotten, that will bring back, it becomes a bridge where we can make that jump and where we can overcome the inhibition or whatever hinders us from opening up really and opening up our emotional center, so to say, and connecting to people then from the heart in that moment, and being able to overlook the differences that are certainly there, and look for the common ground that as a family certainly is there, even if it's not the perfect family, so to say. But we can if we can find common ground with each and every one, somebody we've never seen that just sits beside us in the bus, and if you truly look for it, then we shall find, and we find something that we have in common with him or her, then how much more possibility for that we have within the people that are that we grew up with.
Since you were just talking about families that are not perfect, Colleen answered back with, "Trust me, so far from perfect. I could tell stories. Every family has at least one member that just can't wait to start drama. But Dennis isn't just talking his talk. He really does live by it." And then Jennifer Bruce says, "Hi, friends."
Hello,
So
Jennifer.
hi, Jennifer. Colleen also says, "Really letting go of your expectations of others and what you think they expect of you is not an easy thing, but makes a huge difference in your mindset and how their behavior affects you." And she's correct.
I want to hear from Colleen. What is her secret tool besides having a husband like Dennis? What is her
Say
secret?
she married the right guy. That's her tool.
That's pretty good, yes. But Dennis, so like Uncle Steve comes up to you at the party and he's all like, "Well, you have to believe what I believe because da 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 da," and you're like, "Who is it talking right now, Uncle Steve? The God part of you or the human part of you?" Is that what
I
it
think
is?
Uncle Steve would be wondering how many joints you just smoked.
But we know he smoked none. He's the only one who doesn't smoke any at all, ever.
There's
in the world.
a powerful practical tool that I came across quite a few years back, and as far as I remember, it comes back from a Hawaiian tradition called Hoponopono, and those were like it's 4 short phrases that go, "I'm sorry."
I've got it.
You got it?
I'm sorry. Thank you. Please forgive me.
I love you.
I love you.
Yeah, that's the one. And at that time, I did I kind of programmed myself because I was walking like hours sometimes every day, to reach the different parts of the town where I was teaching at the time. And then I just marked, every step I did was one of those phrases, and it became like a mantra. It went on day after day for days and weeks, and that's something that became ingrained in me. And sometimes out of the blue, those phrases would come back in an interesting situation. And so, that's like maybe a hands-on tool where you can program yourself to, to be guided by gratitude and by appreciation for the moment that you're in, regardless of what pops up in front of you, or, what kind of mood Uncle Steve is in at that specific day. And to find, it's easy to show, it's easy to point out the ugliness and the violence and the terrible things that happen in our world. And a lot of people do that and get stuck with it as well. But you don't have so many people that are able to find beauty and find gracefulness and find, joy and point that out to others and help others to find that as well and to see that as well in the moment. So that's
like the backpack challenge thing, right? You guys know the backpack thing I sometimes talk about, where as we walk through the field, through the field of life, every time something good happens to us, we like pick it up, look at it, and we drop it on the ground. But every time something bad happens, we put it in this backpack. And then every now and then we sit under a tree on our journey and we pull out the backpack and we start rubbing all the bad things all over ourselves. So I remember when, you know what I mean? Well, we should be doing the opposite, rubbing the good shit on us. Shit was not a good choice of words, but anyway, moving on.
The good stuff.
The good stuff. Ambrosia.
Sure that's a country song by Kenny Chesney.
And we haven't even actively reminded our audience of sharing their tools as well. What has worked or what did not work for you in the past. Is there any experiences? Is there anything you can recommend? Hands-on tools or tools on the emotional level, on all kind of levels. What works for you to turn around situations and to center to give thanks.
And maybe they can suggest some of their horror stories too. Maybe we can address some of the horror stories that have come up in past holidays, and maybe how you could approach that to end with a positive result instead of
I'm surprised that none of you Americans brought up guns as a possible tool for a harmonious Thanksgiving.
Because that's just a tool for every day. It's not just Thanksgiving. That keeps conversations real polite. Just saying.
So for a family gathering, you have an AK-47 behind you, on a little strap, so that people can be nice to you continually?
No, but I did open carry because actually this is a story. My mom knew this it's a cover band for like an 80s hair rock band, you know, like the big hair bands. And they're really good friends with my mom. They had never met me, so my mom introduced me to them after one of their sets, and I walked up to them like 20 minutes later and I was like, hey, have you seen my mom? And they were like, girl, I don't even know who you are, and like totally dismissed me and like were really rude and walked away from me. And then she invited them to our Thanksgiving. So I had just gotten my new Glock, so I was open carrying, and I walked in and they were like, you're that girl from the bar. I'm like, yeah, that's my mom. We were introduced 20 minutes before I asked you if you had seen my mom. And then they were all super excited and polite to me because they were like, you carry? You're such a tiny girl. You carry a gun everywhere? I'm like, yeah, it helps keeps people polite and makes me feel a lot safer when I have to go to places alone, because you might be able to overpower me physically, but I guarantee you can't outrun a bullet. So yeah, it changed the whole demeanor of the conversation. And that's my little story of guns and Thanksgiving.
Lovely.
Guns.
I'm glad we had that.
Oh, we have a full spectrum of tools today.
We have lots of comments.
I wager that some families should not have open carry. Like depending on the level
Guns
of
and alcohol don't mix. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
Use
that
it
and
with caution.
drama, level of drama too. Like if the family's drama level is like in the high 90s, probably guns are not a good idea.
In that case, every redneck family would have like totally been demolished every Thanksgiving, because
But every now and then one is.
Responsible gun owners know how to handle situations without resorting, they can handle a family argument without pulling their weapon. If you feel like you have to pull your weapon out at Thanksgiving, maybe you should reconsider the places you're going to Thanksgiving, because that's not normal. Just
all right.
saying.
Hold your space, reconsider where you go. Those are our tools right now, today. Yeah. Back to my tool.
You said you had some more comments?
Yes, we have C. McMillan. Thanksgiving with many exclamation points. I want to have Thanksgiving with Willow, Agni, Mike, and Dennis. We would love to have you for Thanksgiving, but I think it's a bit of a drive. Eric is dropping some truth over here. He says an armed society is a polite society, and he is correct, at least in my opinion.
That was a quote from Robert A. Heinlein, by the way.
You missed Tony as well. Tony McCurdy is there. He says, hello, I'm late, but I'm here.
Oh, she's probably just looking on YouTube. It's not on there.
I'm just
Hi,
on
Tony.
YouTube. Hi, Tony.
He says, crazy mixed up world, but still happy to be alive with you all.
Awesome. C. McMillan says, I want to sit around a campfire with Eric, Colleen, Jennifer, and Kara. And let's see. More
He's just
McMillan.
He's just pulling random names from the chat. He probably doesn't even know these people.
Steve McMillan also says, let's find things in nature to expand our minds and discuss turkey. I don't know what that means, but
I think we mentioned that a little earlier, wasn't it?
Turkey?
The nature, the walk that you mentioned, Willow. That's a tradition.
Her walk was for smoking weed, not for nature. Come on.
Oh, sorry.
And this is not really spring water. I know you're sweet and innocent, Dennis, but it.
Yeah, but I thought that was part of nature as well. The weeds that grow.
The rum? Maybe.
The chat is dissolving into what seems like random comments. I don't know where it's going. So, Eric says Thursday ... Turkey. There are no coincidences. And yes, Agni knows what's up. C. McMillan says it grows in cow poo. Pick it and eat it.
Those are all wonderful tools.
Campfire sounds nice. Come pick me up in Washington. Let's do it, Chris. So, I'm so happy that everyone's having a good time in our chat.
I think we should all get together in Acapulco, and then we can swim in the pool and have a turkey or not. In any case,
from my understanding, we will have stuffing.
Stuffing, yeah, that's good. And I
Yeah,
might
dressing
not
in
be
the
allergic
sauce.
to it.
See, this is the war over Thanksgiving. The stuffing eaters versus the dressing eaters.
Oh, dressing, not stuffing.
Yes, I'm a cornbread
Dressing.
dressing girl.
I was thinking dressing, yeah, we're gonna have a salad too.
Well, a food that has been prepared in a loving and conscious way, and with good intentions, is certainly something that can be foundational for a positive gathering of family members and such, which is what happened throughout many years. With me when my grandparents, who were very much into food and preparing food, and they, that would be their expression of love, really. Everybody would come together, and that was just the thing. That was the tradition, and that was what brought everybody together, and you could feel it. You could always, I felt I almost could grasp it. There's like, wow, the food, it's fantastic and it's great, but that's the least of what's going on in this moment. And it was nice. It was a situation that was very, I learned to cherish it even more, like after, not living in here again where I grew up, and after just, having a chance of coming back once per year, and reliving, some of the past through those traditions. And that actually is something that helped me to, to come back, to leave the other trouble that might have been going on in my life at that time, to kind of leave that behind and kind of recharge my energy and full up my tanks again, so to say, by connecting with family, not only saying hello, but also through those traditions, that were built around holidays usually.
So hang on, Dennis, do you bless your food?
Oh yeah.
How do you do it?
Well, sometimes silently, sometimes I will say a few words just for myself. Sometimes I will utter them loud, to maybe inspire others or give a hint as well. But it really depends on, who is there and on the environment a little bit. And, I don't think it's necessary to utter it loud or so, but then I also think it's nice and important actually to maybe,
To bless your food.
make others aware a little bit of it as well. And there's different reactions. Some people don't understand it all. Some just see it as empty words. But then, it's the
But it's not
intention to
empty
give it.
words, because if you can do experiments, you can like take a portion out and bless it, and then have the other and do taste test, and they don't taste the same. I've done it many times. It really works. Jennifer Bruce made this chicken, and it was so blessed. It was almost like eating blessings with a little bit of chicken garnish. What? Who's talking? What are they saying?
So Chris wants to know why Agni and Mike are in different rooms, because they live in the same place. I think it's just
Because where the
connective
microphones
issues.
are, and it would be weird to have us stuffed in the same screen. I don't know.
Because then we wouldn't know who wants to talk at what time, because their screens would light up. He also wants to know where is Gabriel, because he hasn't been here in a while, which we do miss Gabriel if he's listening. Miss him. Can't wait for him to come back.
He's catching up with all his work. He's taking over like half of Autonomy's work at the moment.
Oh wow.
And he's adjusting.
That's a lot.
He's creating his own team, I think, but I don't know if that's. Yeah.
And Chris also wanted to say that his experience in Germany taught him that Germans in general are some of the most attentive and generous hosts ever in all of his travels.
Wow.
What about the Poles? I would say that they're the same.
And then Eric says nothing evil came out of Germany.
Eric always says that. Just ignore him. Germans are great.
If you really dug into the history, it wasn't the Germans, it was somebody else. But I'll let that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, good idea. Mm-hmm.
I'm not even allowed to comment on that.
Censorship. But seriously, so we have this holiday tomorrow, and everybody's maybe a little stressed out and maybe a little bit upset that they don't get to see as many family members as they want, and maybe they're, what are their emotions that are going through people right now? Maybe they're sad for the Thanksgivings gone by because it's different this year.
Well, I think one of the things that definitely people are going to probably encounter is a lot of depression, because there's a lot of bad things that have happened over the past year. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people are right, like 2 months behind on the rent and all these other kind of things. And certainly entering into the holiday season, it may not be you, but it might be somebody that's sitting next to you. And keeping that in mind could be big, because I know we've already seen that the suicide rates are way, way, way up this year. And they're probably going to go much higher as the holidays come around.
I mean, the holiday time, it's seasonal depression season. So you're losing a lot of light. So you're losing a lot of vitamin D. It's a huge time that you're supposed to be spending with your loved ones and getting that recharging, which can be difficult for some people. Like, as we mentioned before, not everyone has a healthy family. And that's sadly quite common. So you might think that you're getting like this wonderful feeling, like you're being around your family and you're getting recharged and all this stuff, when in reality you might be being drained excessively and not realize it. Also, holiday time for anyone who's working retail or just any job in general, like a 9-to-5 job, it's really stressful. So there's a lot of things at play that contribute. Sorry, my phone is just going off repeatedly, and I keep looking at it.
Is it a calling of this time, maybe to even focus or to remember that even beyond the physical members of your family, there is there's a family, extended family, however you might want to call it, but there's people whom you have a connection with, which might not be your blood family. And is it maybe a calling of the current situation and times to give thanks for those people in your life, and even if it's just a handful, even less, and to create situations, and whether that is in the physically being together, and if that's not even possible, but to create other situations where you can feel on a different level that you are together, that you have things in common, that you have shared good times and bad times as well, and to celebrate and to give thanks for the fact that you have met in this life, and that if the divine, if God will, you'll meet again, and appreciate what has happened and celebrate life in that way, and don't let yourself be drawn down by not living up to other people's standards and by what the TV tells you how Thanksgiving or how Christmas or whatever has to be, and being depressed because of that.
And what about that part where who's upset? Who's doing the upsetting?
I don't know. Are you?
Who is asking the question right now, Agnieszka?
I love it when Dennis goes on about which part of you is doing, and I keep egging him on, and now he's not going to do it just because.
Chris mentioned in response to the vitamin D supplements, which Chris, if you can ever give us some information on what vitamin D supplements are better and why you choose the vitamin D that you do, I'd be interested in hearing more about that. But he says 8 egg yolks apparently gives you the right amount of K2 to go with your vitamin D supplements. Which
you have to eat 8 eggs a day? 8
egg yolks. It's just the yolks.
Wow. What are you going to do with the whites? You have to eat it too.
No, you don't. You cut that shit off.
Well, it's protein, so it's good for you. You might as well make something out of it.
Actually, when I'm not feeling the best, I won't eat the whites. This weekend we had guests over, and they made so much good food, all carnivore diet, and they made eggs, and I just cut out the yolk and just ate the yolk of every egg, and I was like, I feel satisfied.
There's quite a few supplements, liquid based or oil based supplements, which are usually based in coconut oil, that carry a mixture of D3 and K2. So you will just take a drop or 2 or 3, depending on the amount that you would want to take. But there's quite a few available, at least on this side of the world. And I think it has been brought to the forefront of people who are a little aware of supplements and about nutrition, that the D3 and K2 in combination, especially if you take high amounts of D3, is a good thing to take. Especially like
Yeah.
in the realms where like in where I'm right now, where throughout more than half of the year, the sun won't even rise as high or be out long enough in the day that you could get even just close to the amount of D3 produced by naturally by sun exposure, which we don't get because we don't run around naked outside. So most of our skin is covered up here during at least half of the year. So it's almost impossible to naturally get the amount of D3 that we supposedly need. And there's foods actually also that will that have been used, or that have been that will help keeping your moods up. Cashew, for example, would be one. Cashew nuts. Chocolate too.
Dark
Ah,
chocolate?
Yeah.
Because that's my favorite. I like dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate's better than light chocolate. Has more chocolate in it. I was
That's
trying to
important for
look
the
up how
toolbox.
much vitamin K in egg yolk, and it's just confusing. They're giving me all of these different measurements and stuff.
one of the things, in regard to people that have, like there's something that's happened, maybe they've lost their job, or something troubling is going on. Finding somebody to talk to is probably an important thing. And maybe it's really identifying the person in the family that you can talk to, that maybe you feel will listen to you. That's probably something important to identify, and talk to them about the situation that's concerning you. Because I do feel like our inclination is to just kind of hide the things we're embarrassed about, or the things that are gone wrong. And really, certainly in this circumstance at this time of year, it's really better to get that thing off your chest, and really invite somebody else to potentially help you in some way.
It's
That's
funny.
an excellent.
That's
That's an excellent tip.
Yes, I agree. I'm pretty transparent about my flaws, and I'm pretty comfortable with my flaws, so I talk about them openly. And sometimes I meet people who go, "Oh, well, if you're talking about these flaws openly, what horrible flaws do you have deep down that you're not talking about? Because there's got to be some hidden flaws, right? Because you have to have some secrets." And I don't know, I just don't really care that much about my flaws, right? I have them.
Kara shared one of her tools. She wrote, "I'm using it." Sorry. She says, "Recently I've started taking fermented cod liver oil that is combined with grass-fed butter to get my fat-soluble vitamin D." And that, I agree, is an excellent source. And I think I know very well which one you're taking, and I can fully recommend that as well. It's fermented, and it's not processed. It's not done under heat, and that has done wonders for myself as well, even for the children too, for the teeth especially. And then she says, "I'm using it to help with my teeth problems, but it's been helping with my mood and energy a lot too." So that's interesting. That's an interesting take on it.
What was that again?
That's fermented
Dennis?
fermented cod liver oil, and there's a mixture out there by a company which and they don't even sell on a certain multinational huge website that sells everything else. And like it's really great. If you look it up, you'll find it. I think it's called the brand is called Blue Ice, or that's the oil itself. And it's a mixture, and it goes back to the work of a fantastic dentist who in the late 1800s did some amazing research all over the world, and who came up with alternative explanations of tooth decay and of just general health, a lack of health in people, who which he related to refined foods, to flour, to white refined flour, and also to refined sugars being introduced in the traditional diets. And then throughout his career, he came up with what he called factor X, which now is called vitamin K2. And so he found out that was a common factor of what people who had great, perfect teeth and developed jaws. So that was a common factor that those people would take in with their diet. And it was from Australian Aborigines to indigenous tribes in South America, in Africa, to Norwegian, to Eskimos. It was like amazing. He found a source of that everywhere in all traditional societies and in all traditional ways those people fed themselves. And so these people who put this oil together, they're very much based in his findings as well. And his name is Weston Price, and I believe there's a foundation, even the Weston Price Foundation. A lot of interesting stuff on food, nutrition, and yeah.
And they come in non-gelatin capsules.
How this relates to tools for Thanksgiving is make sure that you like have yourself centered, and not just mentally, but make sure you're taking care of yourself in like leading up into these holidays, because it's going, especially if you have a stressful family and you're going into super draining situations, you're going to need all the backup you can get. So definitely make sure that you have your supplements, your nutrition, your mental health. Do a checklist. Make sure all of these things are good to go.
Yeah, the emotional side as well, right? Have a list there as well. What are the things that make you feel wonderful and make you feel great? Because when you don't, then those are the things you least think of. But if you have a list or like a little pin note somewhere pinned by your desk, and you look at it and then no, I don't want to do this, no. But if you have a list of 20 things, maybe 1, 2, 3 things, I could do this, I could read a book, or I could call, I don't know, my mommy or whatever it is. And then you do 1, 2, 3 of those things, and then you feel that as a little shift. And then if you continue working with your list, then you'll find ways of how to without having to depend on too many walks and substances on how to shift your state in a good way.
I tell you something that's always been a positive when I've been in a crappy situation or bad mood or depressed, is to do some volunteer work, go out there and help people that are less fortunate. In many cases, I have definitely felt this myself, and
Are you
taking other
breaking
people
up so
along
much?
as well.
Am I breaking up too?
No, I
No,
can
you're
hear
okay.
it.
It's just my.
Huh,
It's
just
probably my
you.
computer.
His pewter.
You were
Do
saying
some
that
volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
Help the less fortunate in circumstances where you're feeling down. That can really help you put things back in perspective, because in a lot of ways, I know there's a lot of things that can go wrong in the life, but when you see other people struggling and you can help them in some way, shape, or form, I think it does incredible things for your own sanity and perspective on putting your perspective in the right place.
True. Humor also is a
Excellent
big thing for me.
advice.
And that's something I learned to a largest extent from people who were in a supposedly a much worse situation than myself, even at the time. And if the ones that kept their humor, or many of them, they were, in capoeira we say, if the situation is really bad or so, then instead of putting a frown on your face, like you smile in the devil's face and you make it look like it's nothing and you're all right. So it's an attitude thing, it's like it's a way of facing things in life, and it can become a way of life as well. And I felt just that it felt better, and I got more joy out of it, even if I had to fake it a little bit until eventually turned around. And this mechanism of smiling, smiling, like even forcing yourself to smile for a minute or so, and that already will release hormones on a very physical level that will slowly turn around your mood and give you a different a different perspective on things. So you certainly can do that on other levels.
I was just being silly, but in reality, apparently, if you put your shoulders back and you held your head up and you straighten your spinal column, it's much harder to have those depressive hormones to be released in your body, because you're like holding yourself like a dancer. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
physical activity, workout, therefore makes a huge difference in your body language, in your appearance, in your physical posture as well. And you can see that, if you walk down the street, look at people and like look at them good, and you'll find out who is active, who works out and whatever, whether it's, I don't know, going to the gym or riding his bicycle. But you can see people you can differentiate people that are physically active and those that are not. And it's and even for like that's like from a different angle, like from a self-defense point of view, people who are looking for the easy victim, they will sense and they will feel people who are in a kind of victim mode, trying to hide away, and whose shoulders are there and they are ducking, and somebody who
but when your shoulders are rolling forward like that, it means you're protecting your heart because you don't feel safe in the world. So people have this kind of,
so it's indicating fear in a way already. You're not safe, you're afraid of something, of
or
somebody.
hurt or trauma, past trauma could be presented like that. Especially stuff in childhood.
We had Chris opening up and sharing a struggle and what seems like a small victory. So that I'd like to share.
That's good.
When we were talking about like your mental health, your physical health, and getting on track, he said, I haven't been taking care of myself these past few weeks with the passing of my mom. I'm up to 180, whereas I'm normally at around 170 to 165. I've been craving too much lately, beer and Little Debbie snacks, etc. He says, but I feel like I'm getting back on track. I'm getting back into Autonomy Unlimited work and projects around the property. He says in all caps, I'm getting back on track.
Then we missed you. Come to Toastmasters.
He also wanted to give a little shout out, which shout out's not the right word. It's more of a calling out, which I've got a bone to pick with Dennis as well. Says, I will help Dennis by telling him to translate all the links he drops in the Telegram chat in German. I will help him along. Here I go, ready. Dennis, translate that shit. Which I agree, because every time we see you post in the Telegram, it's like, I can't read that. It's all in German. I don't know what it says.
But the videos itself is in English most time, at least. Or okay, all right. I'll work with it.
See, I wouldn't know because I didn't click on it because it's all in German. So I'm like, I'm not going to be able to understand it. Why would I click on it?
Oh no, the ones that I shared, the videos are actually in English. Like I take care of you guys in that way. It's just the comment of the guy who posted it, who might put like a German comment. But
okay, that makes sense.
And I've clicked on them and they were in English, so he's not lying to you guys.
I didn't think he was a liar.
What about the people that can't go anywhere, that are stuck in their homes, that would normally want to be with their family and stuff like that, but can't? What kind of tips do we have for them?
What are your special favorite things to do? Do you like green bean casserole? Make yourself a green bean casserole. Eat that for Thanksgiving. I've done that before, especially when I'm craving. Like, it's my favorite meal when I go to my family's house is green bean casserole. So when I'm missing my family and I want Thanksgiving, sometimes in the middle of like January or June, July, I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna make green bean casserole. I'm gonna eat that for dinner. Make it your own special little holiday.
What's a green bean casserole? Is it like gravy or cream?
So green bean casserole is green beans, cream of chicken or cream of mushroom. I like cream of mushroom soup. And French fried onions. So you mix it all together. You do it in layers. You mix the cream of mushroom soup with the green beans. You add your seasonings, of course, onion, garlic, salt, pepper, a little bit of Cajun seasoning. Then you layer in cheese, and sometimes people add bacon, which is really, really good. Add bacon. Do it. Not for you, Agnieszka, but and then you put like a layer of French fried onions kind of in the middle of it, and then you took the top of it and you layer a whole thick layer of French fried onions, and then you bake it and you crisp up those onions on top. Oh my god, man! Now I really want some green bean casserole.
So I was thinking about your question, Mike, and it seems to me what we're doing right now is already demonstrating a tool of how you can connect. Not in a deep way like being in the same room and seeing each other's. Well, we see each other's faces as well, and we managed to connect without seeing each other physically, besides Mike and Agnieszka. But so there are some tools that we have available, or many of us have available as of today, to connect with those, and to at least see each other like on the screen. And then that would be, if the physical realm of going there is not possible, then that would be one of the things I would seek. And even maybe get grandma, or if she doesn't have the ability, or find somebody close by who could hold up a cell phone or a tablet or a computer, and do that. It is not the same, obviously, but it does something, and it's a step above just calling by phone. If you see somebody's physical reaction in the face, and we've done that like for a few years, living in Jamaica and connecting to family back here. And that would be one of the tools, I'd say. But then also, is there something you can do? Is there something you can, I don't know, like some arts and craft, or something with the children, if you have them, send a gift or a card, like to trigger something, to make like a gesture that might cause a smile, or cause some that other person that can't be with you physically, to think of you and to connect with you on a little deeper level, and then connect with them in a different space as well. Because if it is that the physical being that we are is the least of who we truly are, then is it by extension not logical that we can connect with that who we truly are, and connect on other realms, and connect on our mental, intellectual level, and even, if you want, on a spiritual level. And I think maybe that is what the situation might even ask of you, to be more aware of that connection, and then that is with people who transition as well. Is it possible that there is a connection that you can, be with them, not in the physical, obviously you can't give them a hug or so, but there is, like, that's from my perspective, of course, and I can see, like, I feel a connection with people that have passed on, that transitioned, and it doesn't feel like they're gone. Part of them is gone, but there's another part that I can connect with, and that I can, and that these situations actually, they've in a way forced me, or they encouraged me to connect with them on that level even more. And maybe this situation does that, to a certain extent as well with us.
Yeah, I would say in regard to some of the things you mentioned, like taking up a hobby of something that maybe you've been wanting to do for a long time. That's something you can do on your own. Maybe it's I don't know, stamp collecting or something like that. I don't know what. Something that you can do at your house, of course, but it could be something physical as well, not necessarily
What about
something
creating
huge.
something, like writing a book, or making music, or making a painting, or putting something out of you into the world? Step 1, take your own space. Step 2, birth an idea. Step 3, give it to the world.
You see, I've been kind of skeptical about teaching online and doing classes online, but then also the last few weeks and months, they seem to point at that. So I kind of shift a little bit and set up myself to do more online coachings and connect with people via the tools like the one that we're using right now.
You used to be a Luddite, and now you're a shadow host.
See there. And then also even with my students as well, I have a lot of children, and they because of the lockdown, and then so the situation doesn't allow, the parents don't allow, or they're afraid. So I haven't seen them for weeks since the last one started here in Germany. And then I was like, no, I can never pass on that, and it will never be the same, trying an online thing. But then there were requests, and then so I tried it out last week, and we did a first online training. And it was kind of fun still. I really enjoyed seeing them, and they had a blast. They were working out in their living room and decorating their rooms, and the parents were there, and everybody was excited. So,
and they were breaking vases with their kicks.
So it was more than what I would have expected. So I had to overcome this little inhibition of myself of doing that, because I don't want to compromise what it's really about that I'm teaching. But then again, you have to meet people where they are, right? And maybe that is what it takes for people also to realize, okay, that's nice and it's a nice experience, but it's not the same. I'm not getting the same out of it than seeing him in the physical, or being with him, or getting the teaching right there. So it's like, oh, so what will I have to do? Like, how will I have to posture? How will I have to walk, talk? and be and act, and which responsibilities I will have to take in my life. Or maybe, somebody's telling me I can't leave the house, I can't do this and that. Does that really check out? Does that really make sense? And if not, who has the power to do that? And maybe it takes those kind of situations for people actually to get in gear and to take things in their own hand and change, and change their situation, and by extension, the world that we live in.
That's a good final note.
Yeah.
I know we have 5 minutes left, but that was really deep. Does anybody have any more tips? Michael?
Cheesecake makes everything better.
Cheesecake. Oh, we gotta find some cheesecake.
Do you stuff that too on Thanksgiving Day?
With turkey.
In my mouth.
I was just gonna say.
Actually, that's one of my that was one of
myself
my
with it.
Thanksgiving fails stories, is because I love cheesecake. So I make a cherry cream cheese pie, and I also make pumpkin pie. And this was while I was making food for all of the military people who in Korea couldn't go home, so they were just all invited over to my house. I made so much food. I cooked for 2 days, and I regretted it all because I was like, this is too much. But I ended up having half of a cream cheese pie and half of a pumpkin pie mix. And I was like, well, I can't just throw this away and I can't eat it. So I mixed it together and I made a layered cream cheese pumpkin pie. And I thought it was going to be an abomination. I was like, there's no way that this is going to be good. But everyone loved it. So I learned how to make a new recipe by failing to measure at Thanksgiving. My first Thanksgiving cooking by myself.
See, you're just awesome.
Sometimes. Other times I leave my phone in the freezer. So
That doesn't hurt it. It's okay. I've left my phone in the car in Alberta before. That's probably in the freezer. Just takes a few minutes for it to warm up. Yeah.
So of all the things, I guess, let's just go around the room. What was the favorite thing in regard to the suggestions? We all had a bunch of them, I think. So what was your favorite of all the suggestions in regard to
we can
what might
clearly
be a
see
great
which one
tool?
Agnieszka is choosing.
I'm just joking.
I'm surprised I'm not the one who's being, the deviant one where it's like, drink,
I just had an idea it would be funny for this show to have a little sniffer of rum to go with it. So.
It was a pretty good idea because that is a pretty effective tool that a lot of people don't realize that they already use. This is why holidays involve alcohol, because it just kind of lubricates the whole social situation. But my favorite tip, which I'm very upset that I didn't come up with it, but I'm really glad that someone else did, was yours, Mike, when you said go find the person who you can talk to. That is the best advice that I could probably give someone, is go to people who understand what situation you're in, connect with those people, and remember that they're like a safety net where anytime something's getting a little too overwhelming, you can go sit with that person and recenter yourself. You don't have to stay centered the entire time. You have to keep recentering yourself. So that was my favorite bit of advice.
It's a good one. Dennis?
I will add the simple but powerful, I feel, way of a list. Just sit down right now and make a list of things that you're grateful for, and repeat that every day for a few days even, and see what will shift. And if you focus on that, you'll find more things, and you'll soon be able to, write a page just with things that you're grateful for. And that eventually will influence your thinking, it will influence your state. And then if you look at it really, gratitude and gratefulness is of the heart. And if you center yourself in the heart, you center yourself in gratitude, then that's a good place, to work from. And then things will shift, and things can, look gray and bleak and cold on the outside. But if you keep the fire, if you keep warmth in your heart, then you will connect to others as well, who keep that same thing and who cherish that, and who spread it around and therefore multiply it. And just like the little light, the little candle that might be tiny in a huge, dark night, but after that little candle, you can light thousands or even millions of other little tiny lights, and together we shine bright.
Oh, cute. But honestly, my favorite thing was the one where If somebody is getting ornery or uncomfortable, you change the subject to something that you have in common. Like, remember 20 years when we went swimming in that, wild abandoned beach? How cool was that? I was just a kid, but you were so cool to take me there, that kind of thing. I think it's powerful. Shift the whole. Go ahead.
I'm going to give a shout out to Kara and her cod liver oil, fermented cod liver oil. I think that was a great suggestion. And that, definitely want to appreciate the audience in contributing. And, the audience is becoming a bigger part of this show. It seems every week we seem to grow more and more comments. And so I would encourage that. And honestly, I want to encourage our audience to share this video with other people that might be finding themselves in this situation. This is the perfect opportunity to really get us out in front of other people and really get autonomy. And, the culture that we're trying to derive from the autonomy community is one in which, we're trying to be the optimist in the world, and we're trying to bring what's good about the world into existence in a much better way. And I think this is one of those opportunities that we can help each other. And I will remind everyone that I guess we're going to choose December 14th as the birthday for
Raising Excellence.
Raising Excellence.
It just kind of came up during a meeting yesterday. So, yeah.
So we're going to do something for that. And honestly, let's.
Is that even on Monday or Wednesday this year?
I don't know.
December 14th is a Monday. We could do a whole birthday week.
My birthday's on the 4th.
My birthday's on the 19th.
You're bringing the cheesecake, Willow?
Hopefully someone else is bringing me cheesecake.
I think we should each have cheesecake in our on during the birthday. I think that would be great.
Okay.
We can compare
We'll
cheesecake.
see what we can do.
And Colleen provided the name of the company. It's called Green Pasture. And the product called Blue Ice Fermented Cod Liver Oil. And I'm not affiliated in any way with them, but I just, truly had a great experience, and I gladly recommend them.
Imagine what the factory smells like with fermenting cod liver oil.
Wow.
It's got to be something.
Like cinnamon or like chocolate. But those are some of the flavors that you can get there. It's actually not that bad at all. Even the children take it.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for taking the time and giving us your attention. I hope this was very useful. We're trying all the time to do things that really draw people in. We've got coming up this next week, we're actually ahead of ourselves. We've got something about taking your power away. Don't give your power away. So that's going to be Monday. We're going to have a special guest that's going to come in and join us. So looking forward to that. So
and then
Monday,
the week after,
PM.
Then the week after is our birthday week.
Already?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like next week.
Oh no, 2 weeks after. 2 weeks after.
2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, so then we
that's
still have 1
already.
week to figure out. Yeah, that's okay. Give us suggestions. No.
We have 1 week to send out the invitation to everybody.
That's right. That's right. Raising Excellence birthday show.
Very nice.
Well,
With that said,
Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks to our audience for the fantastic input. Bye-bye.
for their love.